Welcome everybody to the newest episode of This Is a Revolution. I am George, here as always with my good friend Mr. Dave Lamarck, ready to talk all things Sheffield. Dave, how are you doing, my friend?
Yeah, I'm good, thanks, mate. Enjoying a pretty grey bank holiday Monday. How about you?
I'm good, mate. I'm good. It's nice to be able to do this a little bit earlier than normal. And just like you said, that's the benefits of a chill, nice bank holiday Monday.
Yep, I've got my coffee as opposed to what is normally a coffee cup full of juice because it's like 7 o'clock in the evening. So yeah, I'm very happy.
Yeah, I bet you are. Yeah, I've got my pint glass here of cherry Coke. Well, Pepsi Max cherry, Aldi's version. Having this first time all weekend, really, I feel like I sat down and actually got to chill. It's been a really busy weekend in our household. Just been out doing things. Went to London on Saturday to some Tutankhamun immersive experience, which was really cool. But
Enjoy it?
it was great fun. It was really, really great fun. Got to use one of those VR headsets for the first time. I don't know if you've ever used one of those before, but I've always liked the idea of giving it a go and never had the chance to do so. And we got to do it twice. And one of them was we sat there and you were effectively, the whole purpose was you were rising from your tomb to take your journey onto the afterlife.
Oh wow,
Which was
it sounds quite a lot of an upgrade to the one that I went to, which I really enjoyed. But I mean, I think I was at uni when I went to it.
okay, yeah.
So I reckon we're talking about like 2008, maybe.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, so I wonder if it's probably the same sort of thing with just VR stuff in there now as well. But yeah, so
just it's had the modern upgrade to it.
yeah, so I'm like sitting there because you got this seat, right, and there was like a spinning seat, and I realized very quickly that the reason they're given us the spinning seat is so you can spin all the way around and just look at everything. It's like you saw people sit there the whole time as I'm waiting, going, like this. And I'm like, no, fuck this. I'm spinning around and actually looking at everything, taking it all in. And then like you go, and then there's this bit where you follow this bird, and it's the really those weird feeling because you do feel like you're off the ground because you can't see it, like your senses in front of you, and you know you're not. You're in this crypt, and you know you're not alone, but you feel alone because you can't hear anything else, you can't see anything else. Like it is such a weird experience, but it was really cool. But it was literally forms part of the complex that also houses Comic-Con. So
okay.
I didn't realize. Well, I knew Comic-Con was this weekend, but didn't realize it was the same place. So we had everyone outside all dressed up from like Comic-Con, and then us queuing for this Tutankhamun exhibition. It was good fun. It was really good fun. We went to see the new Mission Impossible yesterday, which was good fun. Maybe about 40 minutes too long, but hey, it's the final film. They're wrapping things up, so went and saw that. Got back in time for a bit of Rev Pro and. Look, Dave, I'm going to need you to hold my hand through this a little bit today, mate, because to say
the online,
right? The online connection was spotty at best. I will point out one of my favourite parts of it, though. I had to find the humour in this scenario, right? So every time you kind of load back up, it repeated the same bit. And basically, it kept stopping there. And it said... I forget what was Dave Bradshaw said after that, but then I got the briefest bit after, so it kind of updated a little bit. I thought we're back. It said he's like, "Oh, a momentary reprieve, maybe." This was during RKJ and Zazaya, and then it just dropped, and I was like, "That is brilliant!" Like, if you're gonna write it a particular way to be comedic, you know what? I had to find the funny side of it there, but yeah. So
and I'll tell you what, fair play to him because it's up now in HD on Rev Pro on Demand.
Oh, nice.
But it literally came up 15 minutes ago. So it's like sod's law because if we were recording at normal time, you could have watched it this afternoon and we could talk about it tonight. But no, it was so I get the fun job of basically filling in all the gaps, right?
You do, mate. You do. So, and the gaps are plentiful because I saw some. Because the only match that I got in full was the first match, But to say my attention wasn't entirely on it at that time because we were just getting home, just sorting some bits out. So it wasn't even going to be a case of like seeing all of that and saw everything that happened. So
Yeah,
yeah, mate, I'm gonna allow you to
and
take me through it all.
it's slightly ironic as well because like somebody that I've met who goes to the Sheffield shows, who's a lovely fella, messaged me yesterday to say that he wasn't going to be able to make it, and it was like the first Sheffield show that he's missed in absolutely ages. And then afterwards, it's like, I think that was the best Sheffield show they've ever run. I think that was a show of the year contender. I personally preferred yesterday's show to High Stakes and Epic Encounter. Like,
Wow.
from a complete start to finish, everything delivering as expected and over deliveries, like, and it's just like, oh, sod's law. Nobody got to see it on demand, and a couple of the people that normally are in Sheffield weren't there to see it. But yeah, like in terms of, I think I gave High Stakes. I can't remember if I gave it an 8.5 or a 9 out of 10. I think I probably gave it a 9 out of 10. An Epic Encounter I thought was Epic Encounter was more complete than High Stakes for me. It was more consistent, but High Stakes had higher peaks.
Yeah.
So this Live in Sheffield show doesn't compare to those in the sense that there was no Kanji versus Mercedes Moné match of the year. There was no Young Guns versus Jay Joshua and Connor Mills match of the year, like contenders.
Yeah.
But you got 7 matches where every single match delivered an extension of story or high stakes, my full concentration, my full investment, genuine emotional reactions to things that were happening, and moments of being like, oh wow, that's really cool. I had Wayne and Emma next to me.
Yeah.
So like quite a few moments where I'm sort of like leaning over to Wayne and being like, oh mate, did you spot that like that? And then like explaining how it links to what happened in Coventry and all the shit that I live for, right? So yeah, for me, it was the perfect Rev Pro show in terms of their episodic shows.
Yeah.
Like
I can understand that.
If you're talking WWE or you're talking AEW, the live-in shows are your Monday Night Raws and your Dynamites.
Yeah.
They're your in New Japan, they're the road to shows. Do you know what I mean? Like whatever company yours is, they'll have shows like this.
Yeah.
And then you've got your big events that we're building to. So we're building up to Revolution Rumble and J-Cup, like 2 kind of big shows back to back. And these shows in between. Yesterday felt like it was a really integral one. Like it's almost like when you think about them like mapping things out, and they always say, don't they, like if you're going to tell a good story, start from the ending and work your way backwards. So you can plot all the points. This feels like this was a big bullet point on the list. Like this is going to be where we do X, Y, and Z. And I absolutely bloody loved it, mate.
Yeah, from when I looked at the show, just when the card came out, I'm not surprised you enjoyed it because I looked at it thinking this might be the most Dave the Mark coded show ever.
Like it really was, right?
You've got 2 guys like RKJ and Desire who we've been talking a lot about, and obviously want to see where their stories go, and think that there's roots for them towards the title, and been really pushing for more for Ricky especially as well. On the other side of the bracket, you've got TK Cooper, so you've got that Sunshine Machine link there as well. Look, we know your we know your love as far as Sunshine Machine goes, and then the Shah, who look, I get that may be a split opinion in the fan base in terms of matches that be excited for as much, right? And that's fine. Different people resonate with different people, but the story that they can get out of that, and I still think it'd be a bloody good match as well. But this,
the thing that I really liked about their match was that TK played it really clean.
Yeah.
So she broke Shah's heart, but without needing to do him dirty. He just out wrestled him.
Yeah.
And the match has gone into my top 10 matches of the year.
Wow.
That's how highly I rank it. So to kind of give that some context, the 3 matches on this card make it into my top 10. So to tell you the 3 matches that they ousted, so that means Kanji versus Danny Luna's dropped out of the top 10. Leon Cage versus Leon Slater from the first show of the year has dropped out of the top 10. And either Michael Oku versus Nino Bryan, I think that's the 3rd one to drop out. Yes, it is, yeah. So you're talking about like really, really high standard stuff. But what Shah and TK managed to do was they managed to get the entire crowd, and Sheffield is notoriously quite a slow place to warm up. It's interesting because, again, having a couple of friends with me yesterday, and it was their first trip to Sheffield. There were lots of like discussions about the Sheffield crowd and the network as a venue, and it's nice to get other people's opinions. And we kind of concluded that the Sheffield crowd pay such close attention to the wrestling. Like everyone's watching, everyone's giving it all of their concentration. No one's there trying to, like, no one's just turned up for a bit of Sunday afternoon wrestling. Like everyone's invested in it. They're just quite a quiet bunch of people until someone starts a chant, and it only takes one person, and then everyone joins in.
I find it really unique watching on TV, mate, because this. So I've spoken about quiet crowds a lot, right, and how sometimes it can take me out of it. And I think sometimes that's because of the way the ring gets mic'd up as well, right? So like you obviously get the sound, you want the sound of what's happening mic'd well, so you can actually hear the impact. But you want the crowd,
got commentary, right?
Yeah, and the crowd brings everything up. But where this is different for me, and I never realised until you've actually said it there, but I think I've kind of almost likened, and this is a really weird comparison, I know, but the Sheffield crowd a bit like to Japanese crowds, okay? Because
I completely get that.
A lot of stuff, like the wrestling that seems to resonate more in Sheffield as well, is more of your strong style, hard hitting wrestling, the technical bouts. There is a lot of quiet until a big moment happens. So it's kind of like the Japanese almost respect studying, which I know you've spoken highly about the venue as well, how you like it up there. And I can kind of understand based on what I know you like when you're sitting watching wrestling as well. So I can see how that resonates as well. Just kind of an observation I've had, and I quite like it because I think if it was closer, I think I'd really enjoy it there because I like, don't get me wrong, I like getting involved in chanting and stuff, but sometimes I just don't, I just want to sit and watch and get locked into something.
Yeah. And like I say, they are loud when somebody gets it started. I started a few yesterday. There's another lad, he's there every time. Really good fella. Just get stuff done. If you could see him on the feed, he's the lad who kept having beef with Lizzie Evo because he kept writing signs saying she sucked. But he's just like a good-natured lad who is a very loyal Rev Pro fan and tries to get that bit of atmosphere in there. But I feel like from all the Rev Pro shows I've been to, this was the loudest start, and Shah and TK brought that out. But you could also see there was a real investment in the winner, but a real split between who they wanted, and lots of people like myself who just didn't say anything at all, didn't join in with chants for either person because they just couldn't, like, it was literally like watching two of my favourite people knowing that one of them was going to have their heart broken.
Yeah.
But the fact that, like, I'm 38 years old, I'm standing there watching two fully grown adults wrestle in a match, and I'm fully invested knowing that I'm either going to be delighted for Shah, but then really upset for TK, and then thinking like, what's next for him, or vice versa. And that was just the opening match. Like, it's such a. I remember us talking when they first announced this tournament, and then the people started getting revealed for it, and we were a little bit like, oh, this isn't kind of how we envisaged it. Some people just not available. Like, is that why they've had to go down this route? And then now I just look like such a fucking idiot because, and I think Andy's played it perfectly. There's a brilliant story for TK. There was a brilliant story for Shah. if Zazaya wins, you get the great Zazaya versus Michael Oku rubber match. They've never wrestled in London. They've never wrestled in York Hall. So that's like a real unique match. And it works perfectly because the last time we were in York Hall, we were seeing Zazaya win the Iron Man match with Leon Slater. Yeah. So for people that just go to those shows and don't keep up in between, it makes perfect sense. Yeah. And then you've got the threat of Ricky just spoiling everything because no one wants Ricky to win this tournament. Everybody wants Zazaya or Shah or Teeks. So Ricky could spoil it, and ultimately, you'd say on paper he's the favourite all along, right?
Yeah.
The big story is Oku versus Ricky. It's been the big story for like the last 4 years. Them teasing them coming together, then pulling them apart, then bringing them together, then pulling them apart. Like the match in Doncaster was great. I loved it, but it was not that's not the end of that. It's definitely coming back round again. It's just a matter of when rather than if. So I was so invested in every part of that. Great way to open the show.
Yeah, it's like you said as well, like because here's the thing, there could have been people that they wanted to have in a tournament that because of scheduling couldn't have, right? Because look, there are people like Mills probably is the standout one there, conspicuous by his absence. But what I've really enjoyed about it is that despite who like they, and again, I'm saying this speculating on things I have no clue about because I could be speculating. Well, clearly they might have wanted this person or this person, and this could have been Andy's plan all along, right? That is also one thing to bear in mind here. Is this could have been his plan all along. Whether it was or whether it wasn't is kind of irrelevant to me at this point because
exactly,
it's what he's done with that. Exactly, because hey, we've come out of this now where I'm going, well, what's going to happen with Shah here now as well? Okay, like that. This would have been a great because we were just speaking about this before we came on air, right? That the Revolution Rumble gives you the perfect opportunity. You don't need a challenger who is necessarily going to be one of the top guys who like is going to take the title, right? Obviously, we want Jeopardy in matches. We've spoken about this, but we also understand as wrestling fans that 9 times out of 10 on a Rumble style show, if you're going with like how a WWE does things, you win the Rumble, you then go to X event where you face the champion a couple of months away. Okay, so it's pretty much set in stone that whoever is champion going into that, as long as they may retain the title, is probably going to be champion when it comes to the big show because that's how that is such a small period of time. And usually the challenger that you put on that kind of show against the champion is someone who's lesser in stature in that division and is usually getting that push up, that boost up. And that's where someone like TK or even Shah in his current run. And look, it's important to mention, obviously, Shah's history with the title, but that was a long time ago. So it would feel like a push back up the card for where he is compared to other people on the roster. So it would have made for an interesting match. So that's why I'm coming out of the gate. Was that because they were really hammering it on commentary for this match when I kept hearing, is this Shah Samuel's last chance, last shot at the title?
Well, little exclusive for you because you can't know this because I know you've been out all day. Shah has a message for the Rev Pro fans on Sunday in the 229.
Oh,
that is what has been. That was in the live in Sheffield recap.
Oh, okay.
The wrap up. That's what they called it. Which was Dave Bradshaw and Andy Quilden talking after Sheffield. It's on YouTube. It's about 7 minutes long. It's worth watching. Just to get, because I always find these videos interesting because it's literally Andy's opportunity to hammer home the things that you were picking up as a fan yourself.
Yeah.
And sometimes he points out things that I've missed, or sometimes I've spotted 5 things and he hammers home 2 of them. So you're like, okay, so they're the big 2 and the other 3 are things for longer term. But yeah, this feels very familiar, given 2 years ago, Eddie Dennis did the same thing. And he said, if I don't win the Revolution Rumble, that's it.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that's what Shah's going to say, but I feel like it's going to have some stakes to it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And that's what we want, right? That's what we keep talking about a lot of the times. We want stakes coming out of these things. We
And
want stuff to happen and have meaning.
everybody from this tournament has something coming out of it. So
Yeah.
TK's got the title match.
Mm-hmm.
Shah's got a big announcement regarding his future. Zazaya and Jay Joshua have got an inevitable match coming up.
Yeah.
I really want it to be last one standing. I've never seen last one standing before. I love street fights and things like that. They're good fun, but I love the stipulation of being, these guys can't pin each other.
Yeah.
They can't make each other submit. They're only beating each other by count out. Fine, let's go, tap out or knockout, or like something along those lines.
Mm-hmm.
So they've got that upcoming. Ricky has got this continued storyline of Ricky can't get the job done because Mike Oku is so in his head that he can't focus on who's in front of him.
Mm-hmm.
He dropped the ball against JJ Gow in Sheffield. He dropped the ball against Leighton Buzzard in Southampton, and he's dropped the ball yesterday against Zazaya in Sheffield when he basically had him beat. So there's that cool story for him as well. David Francisco, something is going to come out of the fact that he got absolutely squashed by Ricky, isn't it? They didn't do that for no reason.
No.
So even the people that went out in the first round have got something to feed into. It's Andy said something in that video where he said it was something along the lines of I'm kind of ad-libbing and not taking his words directly because I don't remember them, but it was something along the lines of the ramifications of the tournament are going to be felt for a long time. And it very much felt like Booker talk for what happened in the tournament is going to feed storylines for the next 3 months.
Yeah.
I love that. And do you know what? Everything on this card did that.
Yeah.
So you look at like the next match was Harry Milligan and Josh James versus Young Guns.
Mm-hmm.
Did you get to see any of this one?
I get to see
just like bits and pieces.
I think the majority of this one I saw, and I thought this was a fun match from what I did see of it. I loved that they came out to Shah Life.
Yes, I did.
I thought that was interesting. It was again, it was a more competitive match than I was expecting. I thought all of the guys out there looked really, really good. Josh James, I just want, first of all, like the work that lad is putting in, like he has been dialing in his nutrition.
I really noticed it when it was him and Luke Jacobs.
Yeah.
Because suddenly you looked at Josh and you were like, your physique is now very similar to Luke's.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you think what transformation Luke went through to get in the shape he's in.
Yeah, exactly.
And I'd say Josh had a bigger job because he's an even bigger man.
Yeah.
So there would have been more weight to shift simply because of his physical stature.
Exactly. Like
I thought
literally
Josh was class in this.
I did too. And you know what as well? Like we've always known that, I mean, we've known that both of the guys are talented, right? But Josh obviously had that time out. He's been putting a lot of work into himself, coming back in and just looks reinvigorated. Like really does. I love that. Look powerful, look strong, like look damaging. Harry, you know what? Again, seeing the work the lad does, like it doesn't feature a lot on Rev Pro main shows for obvious reasons. He's still working the Contender shows and getting all his reps in there as well, doing other stuff. But every time he comes back, you see the progression from where he was to where he is now, and it's really great.
Harry's an interesting case, isn't he? Because it's not like he needs reps to get better in the ring because he's very accomplished. It's more the fact that he's needed to have the reps to round out this character that he's going to portray.
Yes.
Because with all the will in the world, Harry Milligan is never going to be a legitimate presence in a wrestling ring. So he's got to find a way to make himself a character, an entertainer that doesn't rely on, you know, that kind of in-ring skill, so that when he then shows the in-ring skill, it's like you have that like Orange Cassidy moment
Yeah.
of being like, oh my god, this guy can actually wrestle. Like, I remember I always go back to when my first ever Orange Cassidy match, which was the same for so many other people, I'd imagine, was the match with Pac. Must have been, I think it was like Revolution 2020.
Let's go with that.
AEW had made him an on-screen character, and they'd done some trio stuff with him, but they'd never had him wrestle one-on-one. And then they put him in the ring with Pac, and it was just this like, oh my god, this guy is incredible. He isn't just a silly gimmick; he's a funny gimmick who can actually really like be legit with it. And that's kind of like where Harry will eventually, you'd hope, that's what he will do. In the same way that, you know, it's you can't help but do the comparisons with Mad Kurt.
Yeah.
Like it's a very similar presentation, and obviously a lot of that is in homage to him.
Yeah.
I don't know if I can call it a pop, but the reaction I had when he went to tag Josh James and he did the dab, because I knew full well he was going to do it. You could just see you were like, no, you're going to do that. You're going to do it, aren't you? Oh my god, you know, as in like, because it's such a, for the story of the match, it's so stupid that he's going to back himself. But like, do you know what? Actually, I can take these guys. Like, no, you can't, Harry.
Yeah.
You can't. They're going to destroy you. Like, you don't belong here. It's so much fun, and I said it to Wayne, my friend that we were standing with, because he and I are quite similar in our wrestling tastes. We like wrestling to be taken very seriously. We like, you know, proper professional wrestling. But there's a place in wrestling for humour.
There is.
There
yeah.
really is. And lots of people love humour in wrestling. There are whole promotions that just do humour in wrestling. Rev Pro for me is a very serious product, and that's why I love it. It's literally, if I could run my own wrestling company, I would run a company in the image of Rev Pro, not just because I love Rev Pro, but because I had an image of what I loved in wrestling, and then I found Rev Pro and was like, oh my god, they literally do everything that I love in wrestling. Like, that's how I fell in love with them. But they're, even in a serious company, a little bit of comedy goes a long way, and it's used sparingly. I go back to the 6-man tag that we had at the start of last year with Harley Hudson and Leon Slater, and Leon Slater completely chopped her head off with a leg lariat, and then looked around as if to be like, "What?" Like, when the crowd were like, "You can't do that," because they just played with the intergender idea there, and it was just. I feel like they're nailing this. Really feel like they're nailing it, and what I loved was how well Josh played the whole thing, because he was so frustrated with Harry, because Harry was effectively a complete liberty in this match. He had no right to be in the ring with Luke Jacobs and Ethan Allen. Like, it was feeding a lamb to the slaughter.
Yeah.
But Josh played the acting side, the balance of how much do I hate, one of my biggest criticisms in wrestling, and it's so hard to get right, is overacting.
Yeah.
I feel like Josh got it right, exactly on the right spot. And at the end, still gave Harry a hug. His patience is going to be tested, because Shah's mugging him off on a regular basis, because and Shah's picking Harry over Josh. Like, that's a humiliation in itself.
Yeah.
And at some point, Josh is going to lose his patience.
Yeah.
It's just a case of, is Shah gonna turn on Josh, or is Josh gonna turn on Shah?
So here's the thing. I've actually got 3 scenarios that can happen here, right? There's the scenario that Shah turns on Josh. There's the scenario where Josh turns on Shah. There's the scenario where Shah decimates Harry, and that's what sets the turn up for Josh. There's the scenario where Josh does that to Harry, which sets up Harry and Shah. But there's also the scenario where Harry also turns alongside.
Like, I can literally, as you were saying these scenarios, I'm picturing them.
But then there's the last one that I can see happening. The very last one. Shah turns on Harry, and so does Josh. And they destroy the lad. And that's how we get to the New Age revolutionists.
Yeah, like and do you know what? I'm interested in all of them, and I can imagine all of them. The one that sounds least convincing is Harry turning.
Yeah,
but I can picture it where Shah's in full revolutionist mode when he was an absolute bully, and Harry almost with like tears in his eyes, looking like he doesn't want to do it, can't even look at Josh, is looking away from Josh, but sinks to his knees and low blows him.
Yeah.
You know, from behind. And you've got that image of, you know, the arm hooked on the legs. He's looking away as if to be like, you know, I shouldn't have done it, but I kind of have to. Charles can make him me, and Charles in his head. Like, there's so many directions from what essentially is. It's not the top storyline. It's not the second top storyline. It's not the third top storyline. It's not even the fourth top storyline in terms of your main event heavyweight championship picture, your Mercedes Moné picture, your tag belt picture, your cruiserweight picture. You know, the cruiserweight's got a whole tournament to crown the next challenger after Leon Cage. You've got Mercedes Moné, everybody wants to get involved with her. There's a whole rumble to determine who faces Oku or TK Cooper after the rumble. Yeah. And then there's the tag championships, which is the first match announced for these big shows and a big street fight. Like, there's so much happening there. And then you've just got this storyline between Shah Samuels, Josh James, and Harry Milligan. Yet I'm having so much fun talking about it and thinking about it.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think there's a lot of stories being told. I think it's great to have depth of stories that aren't for the titles. That's really important. And we need stories lower down the card that can then elevate people so that it's not just like, who's ready? Who do we lift now? Like, I have it make sense. Have those gradual people. One of the things that I've been really critical about when you're looking at TV wrestling for a long time was WWE used to be the masters of that. And then they focused main event. And one of the things that AEW, by necessity, AEW had to do this because they had a real gulf between top level and rest of the card. And you could see it working there where they then bring people up. And within your card, you've then got to have like lengths of where the top end of that is and the bottom end of that is. And just by having people go and do these stories is how you give them credibility over time. The one thing I do want to see a bit more from Rev Pro is, while we are seeing stories for the tag team, I think there feels like there needs to be a bit more there to bring. So I feel with the women's division, we're getting your challengers quite nicely with cruiserweight and the heavyweight. We're not quite there with the tag team belts.
Yeah,
and
I think cruiserweight's like, effectively, the cruiserweight division very much feels like it's Chris Ridgway, Leon Cage, and Nino Bryan right now.
Yeah,
we've got the J Cup.
Yeah.
And so therefore the J Cup kind of papers over anyone's criticisms, because it's like, well, here we go, we're going to have a big tournament. We've got Leon Cage versus Will Caven at the Rumble. Then we're going to have this tournament to crown a victor, which is going to be at the anniversary show. So it's like, perfect. The cruiserweight title has come to a head at the right time.
Yeah.
But the tag division just doesn't seem to exist right now, does it? Like, it's
we had
Young Guns, CPF, and that's about it.
Yeah, and I know that we obviously had that great run up to Epic Encounter where it was Young Guns were going pace for pace with Mills and Jay Joshua, right? And that felt great. Like, that first quarter of the year it was like, yeah, great, okay, this is what we want. And then it was just the stories sitting underneath that didn't seem there. And I
Yeah.
said at the time that, again, I don't know whether the CPF story is by design or, oh, we haven't built anyone else up. And again, we'll see how that unfolds. But it felt like, well, CPF are kind of there as a trio. They've been doing really well, and they were the only other recognized team that had any
Yeah.
kind of steam behind them.
And
The
it's difficult because there's only 7 or 8 matches on a card.
Of course,
There's
yeah.
only one show a week, 3 or 4 shows a month, about 40 shows in a year. Like, you can't have all 4 divisions firing at the same time
No.
unless they run more shows. So maybe a compromise would be just to put more. They've done a lot over the last year or so to bring people into each other's orbits and occasionally have them as a tag team.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd quite like to see them used on a show like this Sunday at the 229. Why not have JJ Gal and Cameron Clyde team together? We've seen them tag together before.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe why not have Liam Slater and Leon Slater tag together? You know, that works. Maybe Cameron's story is leading to him tagging with Leon with the whole what happened between him and Liam Slater in Coventry.
Yeah.
But you know what I mean? Like where you've got people where it's not obvious what they're doing right now, not put them together and make them a tag team and make them challengers for the Young Guns because that's such an old trope in wrestling. But just do the bring them together, then maybe drift them apart, like for a few singles bits. Have people in more than one division. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
I'm with you on that. Yeah. I think that would work
it just
really well.
means that we can have the occasional tag match and it be like just to kind of remind you so that when we do eventually need another tag title challenger, it doesn't feel like it's out of nowhere because you're like, oh yeah, we have seen Cameron Kai and Leon Slater or Cameron Kai and JJ Gal half a dozen times now.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah,
the half a dozen times are over the span of 2 years, but that's fine. Teeny tiny criticism in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah, exactly.
But I do completely see where you are with it.
And it's one of those things that when we talk about levels, like this is levels above where we were a couple of years ago. So it's a nice problem to have. One of the things I'm really
absolutely. And as you were talking about the layers on the card and the storylines lower down the card, I don't think they really happened in Rev Pro when I first started watching them.
No, it didn't. And that's one of the things that I'm finding really interesting is that these matches,
I find it much more rewarding for my investment in the last, probably like in the last 2 years than the first 2 years. Or maybe it's just as I have become more invested, I feel the reward more because I notice more and I make the links better. Maybe they were always there.
I think
it certainly does feel like there's more happening
to answer that
in the
point.
First, second, third matches of a card.
Yeah, to answer that point, Dave, I think there's a couple of things there, and I think you're right that they're all tangentially linked to each other. That I think the reason you're being rewarded more is because you are paying more attention. But I think also because of the popularity of Rev Pro increasing and Rev Pro's reach and what they're able to achieve means that they've got more events they can focus over. So they can afford to play out longer drawn stories and put little crumbs out there.
I think there's a more talented pool of wrestlers as well.
There is that. There is definitely a more talented pool of wrestlers coming through, and Rev Pro is now the draw. At one point, Progress was the cool thing out there to do. Right, that was the beacon of the scene, and they were like they had the cool vibe to it and everything. I'm not saying that they don't now, but I think it's much more level playing field in terms of public perception of companies. Whereas one was really cool, one was a bit more traditional and old fashioned. Whereas I think
I was very much drawn to the whole like punk rock pro wrestling.
So was I. Yeah, absolutely.
That was like, this sounds dangerous and different and
yeah. And then
for me, as opposed to pro wrestling at its best. But then I think what I probably realised quite quickly was punk rock pro wrestling is quite a catchy name. Doesn't really mean very much. Whereas pro wrestling at its best isn't just a name; it's also
And
a spoiler. Like that's actually what you're going to get.
and I think
And
that over
that's not me.
yeah.
That's not like a Rev Pro is better than Progress thing. Like this is a Rev Pro podcast. I don't watch Progress weekly. I've watched bits and pieces. I've been to a show. Like that's it. But from just my understanding of the scene, there've been times when Progress is like the more popular one, and there's been times when Rev Pro is the more popular one. And with the anniversary show, like the big copper box events, all in weekends, the link up with AEW, there's more to draw people to Rev Pro right now than there is with Progress. Would be assumption.
And that's I would say you're really spot on with that. Now, one thing I've just realised, Dave, is you and I do what we do. So you just said pro wrestling at its best. Going off on tangents at its best is what we do. When it comes to the match between Ridgeway and Leon Cage, I saw like this was the one that I'm. You know what? Right, I'm understanding. I love. By the way, I'm just again off a tangent. Andy Quilden said at the beginning of the second half, he's like, "We're really sorry about the technical difficulties." He said, "But you pay for the service, not the live stream, so stop moaning about it." Andy Quilden, right? You're correct, Andy. But when it takes me away from the match I was the most excited to see on this show, Ridgeway versus Leon Cage.
And it was so good, mate.
Unforgivable, because what happened, I saw the first 5 minutes of it, and then it just kept skipping along.
Yeah.
And then what I saw was, I saw Ridgeway got the first fall, and I was like, right, okay. So my thought was Leon for the win. Like initially, that was my first thought. And I know we've spoken about the title and we said, can you really do heel versus heel with Caven? Like, does that feel the right way to do it? If anyone could then pull out kind of a almost anti-hero vibe out in a match like this, Ridgeway does feel like the guy who could do it. So I was like, maybe he could. But I thought, no, this is Leon's mountain to overcome.
Yeah,
like,
and do you know what? I'd totally forgotten the stipulation of the match. Not the 2 out of 3 full stipulation, but the winner gets Caven at the Rumble stipulation, and the loser goes into the J Cup. So all the time I'm thinking both these guys are going to be in the J Cup, but they're not, are they? Because I mean, maybe. No, ignore me. No. I was about to say maybe Leon doesn't beat Caven and then enters the J Cup. The J Cup's first, isn't it? The J Cup's the week before the Rumble.
Yes, yeah, you're right. Actually,
no need for Leon to enter the J Cup because why would you when the tournament is to get a title shot? Obviously, there's the prestige of winning the tournament as well and building on the legacy. But so for me now, I'm super excited because Leon versus Caven, I could absolutely see that going either way because Leon feels like the person to beat Caven. So let's do it. On the other hand, what a way to keep Caven being the spoiler by just having him keep beating he beat Cameron Kai, he beat Lio Rush, he beats Leon Cage, and his little reign of terror continues. So either way, I'm invested. My kids will love this match. The Revolution Rumble is their first time going to York Hall. We already have a severe conflict in our house because my daughter has told me that I'm not allowed to cheer for TK Cooper. She is very unhappy with him, to the point where, she's genuinely upset because he was her favorite wrestler. Kanji was her favorite. Kanji is her favorite, her number one.
Yeah.
But it was always Kanji, JJ Gao, Sunshine Machine. They're her favorites. They're her absolute favorites. And she can't forgive TK just for cheating. And I've tried to tell her that, sometimes things are worth cheating for. Nope. She won't have that. The little boy will do what his big sister tells him to. So they will both be cheering for Michael Oku. I will be cheering for TK Cooper. And probably you'll have to sit in between us, mate, just to stop there being a ruckus up on the balcony.
I'll cheer for Chuck Mambo.
But what will be absolutely unanimous is everyone, my kids included, they're going to want Leon Cage to beat Will Caven. And like that's such a good match. Put it on first, have that open the Revolution Rumble. Like I'm really, really excited for that. And then the J Cup I'm now really interested in because Chris Ridgway winning the J Cup so we can go back to Ridgway versus Leon Cage feels like something quite fun to do. And it would break the streak of babyface wins in the J Cup.
Yeah.
Or a shock Nino Bryant underdog upset, where the hell did that come from win could bring us back to Leon Cage versus Nino Bryant.
Yeah, it could.
Or let's see who's announced for it from overseas. And, you know, you see an overseas big name babyface and you're like, there you go. There's your champion. And there's your match at the anniversary. Leon Cage versus name, you know? Like...
Yeah, it's interesting because, you know what? It's funny because when they announced anniversary for it, I was like, right, well, it feels like, to me, it feels like you want a big match nailed on for that, right? And I'm not saying that Leon, like, winning the title wouldn't be big, but it feels like that almost had, like, a big name nailed on for it. Like, let's put... And I thought maybe it's one of the overseas-based talents comes in and wins the J Cup and goes on and wins the title there. But then my brain goes round to... But it feels like it needs to be someone internal that wins the title from Caven. Like, Caven's had such a... So... Leon would make Leon or
and also this,
Ridgway.
Do you remember last time, 2 weeks ago, when we last podded before Mastermind, which if you have not watched, I thoroughly recommend. Just great fun. We said that one of the problems with this match was this was going to be the first match announced.
Yeah.
The winner of the J Cup versus Will Caven for the at the anniversary show. It's going to be the first match announced. Therefore, like, how are they going to have the Ospreay versus Shingo, Michael Oku versus Luke Jacobs big match announcement? But it doesn't. It's not going to be, is it? Because although you're going to know the winner of the J Cup, they can't announce the match until Caven and Leon Cage has happened.
Yeah.
Which is on the same night that the Revolution Rumble winner is confirmed.
Yeah.
So the first match that can come out is Michael Oku or TK Cooper versus Revolution Rumble winner.
Yeah.
And then a couple of days later, J Cup winner versus Leon Cage or Will Caven. And it's at that point that you throw in something tasty as well, right? Like, it's at that point that you throw out Zazaya versus Hechicero from Epic Encounter.
Yeah.
Like, it's at that point that you're just like, oh, and just before you think this is just going to be, you know, a big Rev Pro show, this is the big super show, because here's a couple of superstars that are going to draw people in that are a little bit more, you know, don't watch it on a week-to-week basis, but like to dip in and out for the big events. Like, I think it's going to work out really nicely.
Yeah, and I think what it does for me is I start overthinking about... This is where, like, the booker head comes on, right? I'm not a pro wrestling booker, and I don't want to do it so I get myself to a scenario and go, this is the only route they can go, and go, oh, disappointed they didn't go there, right? Without the teasers. And I could argue that that's what I did to myself a little bit with the Jay Joshua Desire thing, where something that was a bit more interesting to me was presented, and I went, oh, I didn't get what I wanted. But
which is natural. And we all do it.
But I think what I find interesting here is that my head is then going to all these different possibilities. And I go, well, that doesn't work for this reason. That doesn't work for this reason. Because what you're expected. And what I love about it is it's playing with convention. Like, it's turning convention on its head a lot here.
And I really love that about Rev Pro. I feel like they do it a lot.
Yeah.
To the point where this 2 out of 3 falls match, it could have finished 2-0. Very much easily could have finished 2-0 because they've done 2 out of 3 falls matches which have finished 2-0 before.
Yeah.
Robbie X versus Will Caven, and RKJ versus Mike DeVecchio being two examples. It also could have been a really short match.
Mm-hmm.
Because the nature of how Ridgeway works, he easily could have made Leon Cage tap out twice.
Yeah.
So I'll use my wife as an example. Not a wrestling fan. If we weren't together, she would not be putting on the wrestling.
Yeah.
But enough of a wrestling fan that whilst I'm in Sheffield yesterday, I phone her in the car on the way home, on the hands-free, and I'm like, "Oh, have you had a nice day?" And she's like, "Yeah, I've been playing Ike's wrestling game with him." And she was like, "I beat him for the first time. I was The Rock and he was John Cena, and I beat." And she can name stuff. She'll be like, "I got him with a superplex and then a rock bottom." She's watched plenty of wrestling in her life, back in the Attitude Era because her brother used to watch it, to watching AEW and NXT with me. We used to watch on every Thursday night. We'd watch the shows back to back. To watching Rev Pro with me, and like, she's not a wrestling fan, but she does know what she's talking about, like from a casual perspective. So I always find it interesting when she says stuff. 2 out of 3 falls is her least favourite match stipulation of all match stipulations. I really like them. She can't stand them. And she says they're so predictable. They always go the same way. When one person gets the first fall, you know the other person's getting the second fall. You know nothing's going to happen. Like, you know that it's going to have to be at least 20 minutes long. There's going to be at least 5 minutes between each fall. So she can just see the formula. And Rev Pro just don't do that.
Yeah.
And I love that. It's almost like Andy's got, which is what I would be like, which is what I am like as a person, of being like, "Oh, do you think there's a formula? Fuck that. I'll show you there's no formula." There's the wrestling trope. Nope, we'll turn that on its head just to prove everybody wrong. And I like that because that's how you do away with tropes. Yeah. So I was really invested in this match, and the thing that I love about it, Ridgeway was attack, Leon Cage was defense. Mm-hmm. This was a sporting contest. This was like going back to Jose Mourinho's Chelsea team. So this was like Man United versus Chelsea from that sort of time period, where Ridgeway is Man United with, the technically gifted players going out in the attack. And Leon Cage is John Terry and Ricardo Carvalho at the back and Petr Cech behind them. Like, just whatever you bring, I can take it and get a way out of it. All I need to do is get you on the mat for 3 seconds.
Yeah.
So when you say, like, so you've not got to see this match, right? And I know you're going to go away and watch it. To say that Leon Cage wins with 2 roll-ups sounds so shit. Like, if I read a review of a 2 out of 3 falls match and the underdog wins with 2 roll-ups, you'd be like, "Oh my god, that is peak crap era WWE booking." That is. Yet you look at the 2 roll-ups he got. They're not roll-ups, first of all. Yeah. It's not a roll-up. It's a reversal into a pin. They're so good. They're so tight. And I'm genuinely, for me, the most impressive Leon Cage match I've seen.
Okay.
Because
that's high praise.
Like Leon versus Michael Oku, Leon versus Leon Slater. These are great matches. Those gifable moments, those kind of moments that are going to get like a viral video.
Yeah.
The sorts of things which, make people. But in terms of fundamental in-ring, years beyond his age ability, this was my favourite Leon Cage match. And I'm looking at Leon Cage, I'm a bit slow with people when it's like, when everyone jumps on the bandwagon and being like, this guy's going to go like the distance in wrestling.
Yeah.
And I'm a cynical old bastard, mate. I am. I've been around the block too many times. I look at wrestlers and I think, Leon, he's so talented, but he's not 6 foot tall. And then, you know, people will be like, well, Rey Mysterio's not 6 foot tall. And it's like, yeah, but how many Rey Mysterios went the distance? There's a reason why you're saying Rey Mysterio and you're not saying Ultimo Dragon, you know? I do think that Leon, the talent that he has at 18 years old, is frightening. And he
Yeah.
does have that potential to be a real somebody in this sport, because he doesn't wrestle like he's 18 years old.
No, he doesn't. He feels like he's so much older than he is. The thing that I've noticed getting up close to watch him wrestle, and look, I'm talking about everything here that makes the package of a wrestler, right? So, what he does in the ring, how he does his moves, how consistent he is with his technique, seeing how he switches up his technique to go from high flying one match to actually technical match another time. How his gear like just looks the part, like you putting money and investment
He's
into
invested, isn't he?
yeah
Absolutely, his family has
the
invested in his career.
the investment that he's got in all of the facets that make someone stand out when they come through the curtain, and then all the stuff at the merch table from when he would like have the merch, will speak, will spend time, all of that sort of stuff. He gets it. He absolutely gets
Yeah.
what the business is about, and I don't know what they're putting in the water in Wales, but it is such a hotbed for wrestling. Like, it's firing on all cylinders. And look, I don't know if it is purely down to New Wave Academy. They're clearly putting a lot of great work out there for people. But whether it is down to those guys, but it's down to a lot more than that as well, who knows? But the fact that this lad, we're already at least a year removed from the Young Bucks doing his move on TV and AEW after he went viral for doing it, just shows what a future this lad has got. But that he is, by the fact that he has not seen that and gone, well, then I'm clearly like believing the hype. Like, such a humble lad who goes out there, puts the work in every time. Yeah, I don't foresee a scenario where this guy isn't like achieving things in the business. Yeah. Can't wait to go and watch that one.
Yeah, speaking of Zazaya versus RKJ, we've all said about Zazaya having uncapped potential.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I really liked about this one?
What's that?
It was just different to everything else on the card. It was chaotic. It was all over the place. It was a proper RKJ kind of, like a proper RKJ match, where it's 100 miles an hour. It's all over the building, all around the ring, and just like the oohs and ahs of everything just looking so painful.
Yeah.
Really funny moment. There were no contenders at Sheffield yesterday.
Interesting.
So when RKJ launched Zazaya into all of the chairs, there was nobody to put them back again. And 3 rows of Sheffield fans, no one took the initiative to put the chairs back.
Oh my god!
So for this whole match, the hard cam must just be looking at empty chairs that are all over the place, because everybody just stood at the sides watching until the match finished, then very politely went and sorted out all their chairs. And in the second half, Aluna and Kurt Atlas, who were both just attending the shows, like just watching,
yeah,
volunteered to do some contenders duties, which is, you know, well done for them. Fair play to them for chipping in, but just a humorous little tidbit. I really, really like this RKJ storyline because it's such a good way of keeping him and Oku apart.
Mm-hmm.
He just can't get it done.
No,
he can't get it done because he's not giving it everything. He's lost his head. It's not that he can't do it; he can do it. It's not that he's not motivated; he is motivated. He's just not focused. And he's not focused because Oku's in his head. But then that's what everyone said about Oku and Leon Slater, right? So it's all these little bits that are just crossing over, and I'm really, really enjoying it. He dominated Zazaya. He could have hit the Kishi driver at any point. It would have been game over. But he wanted the half grab. Because he wanted the half grab and he was giving it all of that. He's literally goading Michael Oku, so Oku comes out. But once Oku's out, Ricky can't take his eyes off him, which means he's not got his eyes on Zazaya. Zazaya catches him. 1, 2, 3. Loved it. It's just, this was where, like, a sporting framework can have a bit of the, the sports entertainment side, that kind of traditional, like WWE booking of a distraction finish. Like, it's so easy to say, oh, distraction finish, oh, lame. It's like, no, it was really good. There's a reason why we have distraction finishes. There's a reason why we have interference and non-finishes and countouts.
It's the exception, not the rule. Yeah.
And you use them when it means something to the story. And this, really, really enjoyed this.
One of the things that you had said earlier was talk about your wife, about like the matches she doesn't like because she can see formula. And that's really what it is. It's down to the formula that you condition your crowd to have, right? So it's if you condition your crowd that interference is going to happen every single time, and therefore that's the only way a match is going to finish, you get burned out on it. Case in point, there's a wrestling simulator that I play, and when I played it at one point, I was so engrossed in the WWE style that every time I booked a feud, it was a 3-act feud every month, one match at the pay-per-view. One would get a win, the other would get a win, and the champion would
booking by numbers, right?
The champion would always win by lose
if
by
that's what
distraction.
The player in the game is doing. That's what everyone else is going to be.
But so people are burned out from that. So, like a lot of things in wrestling, sometimes everyone just goes straight from one to the opposite, going that bad. I was like, no, it's not bad. Like, count out finishes aren't bad. Draws aren't bad. These things that can all be good as long as you are not doing it in a way that makes things obvious to people. And I in my Rev Pro, I like my serious wrestling, but I like it when I can see a 7-match card. I know, maybe that means someone's coming out to talk for a bit because I want a bit of a I want some of that stuff and stuff like this. When you see the champ come out, it's like, oh, interesting. Like, because this adds into the story. This isn't just like a mugging and then gone. This is again Oku's coming out.
Nice because you get like one thing that I've always liked in other companies is like kind of show long threads. And recurring characters. And so wrestlers that will appear in more than one segment. So we had Michael Oku here, and then we have him in his match. We have Jay Joshua in his match, then we have Jay Joshua interfere in the main event. Like, it's...
We had that in London a few weeks ago.
This is all kind of linking together really, really nicely, and it just makes this really enjoyable 2-hour show. And it's worth noting, haven't seen cage match timings.
Not yet. I've gone on. Not on there.
There was no Gadge yesterday, so someone's going to have to time them from Rev Pro On Demand. But the Rev Pro On Demand video is about 2 minutes 10.
Okay.
And one of the things that, like, Wayne and I both said, obviously Wayne's first time up to Sheffield, so when it finished, it was about 20 to 7. And he was like, wow, that flew by. And that's a really nice feeling. No one wants a show to drag along.
No.
And I felt like yesterday, this 7-match show was perfect length for an episodic weekly show. And then, like, when you're there and you're kind of like, I do this every time. I'll be thinking about when one match finishes, I'll be thinking, what's next? So I thought that it would go tournament opener. I thought it'd be RKJ versus Zazaya first, but it was Shah and TK.
Carrying on.
Then I thought it would be either the tag match or the second and we got both of those as the second and third. Then it made sense that Leon Cage and Ridgeway went into the interval because that's going to be a longer match because it's 2 out of 3 falls. So that first half flew by.
Yeah.
And then you're in the second half, and it's like, what have we got for the second half? Michael Oku versus Jay Joshua, which is just a match that everyone's been waiting for. Like, at some point, Rev Pro are going to pull it. Then you got the Charlie Evans versus Liz Evo match, which I really, really enjoyed because it was such a good storytelling match.
Yeah.
And then the tournament final, and you're like, what a great card where everything earned its place. No fat whatsoever. Not a single match where I looked at it and was like, I wish that was a couple of minutes shorter. Which, I mean, at this point, we could get T-shirts with them written on, couldn't we? The number of times we say, really good match, could have been a couple of minutes shorter. Like, this one was perfect for it. The Jay Joshua Michael Oku match, I felt was a big kind of like Jay Joshua putting his foot down and reminding everybody, like, this is who I am. Don't forget, just because I've been in a tag team with Mills, I'm still a serious contender in this heavyweight division.
Yeah.
And it was a proper Michael Oku match,
Yeah, again, this was one that was cutting out for me at times, so I was paying a little bit of attention here and there, but I had it on, but it was stuttering through so much that I was.
You can't enjoy it when it's like that, right?
Yeah, exactly. So
you don't want to turn it off because at any point it could come back on.
It could come back on. Something good could happen. Like, so it was kind of like that for me, but at the same time, I was like, no, I'm not gonna pay too much attention, but. I'm really, really excited to see this one. Again, like, you called it last week when you said that this was one you were really looking forward to, and I was like, oh yeah, it should be a decent card, but actually seeing these people get in the ring against each other, I was like, no, this is going to be good. This is going to be really good. So I'm glad
really
it delivered.
He really turned the crowd against him as well.
Mm.
So he's become really popular, right?
Like, yeah, he's very popular.
Really popular. He's always on the merch table. He's a lovely fella.
Yeah.
But he played the Rev Pro Ace card.
I love
when you're wrestling Michael Oku and you want the fans to turn against you, threaten a mirror.
Yeah.
That's literally all you've got to do because she's so beloved. I absolutely love how a mirror just gives it back.
Yeah.
If Jay Joshua threatened me, I'm about probably 4 or 5 inches taller than Jay Joshua, and I'm a big bloke in the sense that I'm not muscly in any way, but I'm fat. If Jay Joshua told me to sit down, I'd sit down and move my chair back 6 foot. Like, he is an intimidating fella, and I love the fact that Amira, like, she gives it back so well, but it's, she does it in a way that it's so convincing within the role that she's playing and her character.
That's it, right? Like, and again, she doesn't have tropes that she follows, because if the trope would be the man tells her to sit down and she sits down, like,
she's not a Miss Elizabeth, but she's also not like a like, I'm trying to think of she's not a Miss Elizabeth. She's not a China.
No,
she can be. She's 3-dimensional. She can be anything. She is Amira Blair.
Yeah, she is the first Amira Blair.
I also love so much so how many matches you watch where you're like, she has dragged Michael Oku through that match.
Yeah,
like, she has influenced the match without getting involved in the match.
Yeah,
and that's got to be that's going to lead eventually to something, isn't it?
I'm hoping. I
really want Jay Joshua and Zazaya to take place at the J Cup.
Yeah,
and then both of those guys to be in the Rumble. And I really want Jay Joshua to be like the Iron Man of the Rumble this year, or if not the Iron Man, like that guy that comes in and throws 6 people out.
Yeah,
and then it takes
yeah.
5 people to get him out. Like, I want him to have a really good showing.
I
I'm
have a
sure he
feeling
will.
he
'Cause I
will.
feel like the Rumble matches are almost to a fault are booked so that everybody gets a good showing.
Mm-hmm.
It does mean that when the Rumble starts, you're in for a long match.
Yeah.
They're a serious commitment, but I feel like I've enjoyed both of the ones that I've seen live, and so I'm convinced that Jay will get a really good run in it. And even if him and Desire happens at the Rumble, I'd imagine they'll still both be in the Rumble because we've got a precedent for that from the last 2. That if you're on the show, you still make an appearance in the Rumble itself with Josh Alexander, Michael Oku, Zack Sabre Jr. All these guys have done double duty on it. Leighton Buzzard tried to last year, which was like a nice little addition after his injury, which led to Mills getting involved. So that I'm really looking forward to. I just don't think it can work at the Rumble because I envisage it being a stipulation match, and therefore I don't see Rev Pro booking 2 stipulation matches on the same small card. But
Yeah, I'm with you. I think
either way.
I think this is the perfect match to have at the J Cup. I think you need something very different. This is what we discussed last time, right?
Yeah.
That Luke Jacobs versus Manders, which that's crazy that we're coming up onto like the anniversary of when Manders first came into Rev Pro.
We're a couple of months short, aren't we? Because the J Cup's happening earlier in the year this year.
Yeah,
but it's like, still in terms of like
events on the schedule.
Calendar.
Yeah. So it's kind of like that feeling of like, when it happens. Like, but that was such a very different match. Shah, who was Shah's partner in that match? It was Shah and Oscar, wasn't it? Versus Golden Boy and Francisco with Yuto
coming that was
back.
Raw Deal, wasn't it?
Oh, that was, I'm getting my venues mixed up. Oh, of course I am.
What was you're 100. The J Cup last year.
You're 100% right, Dave. Oh, how can I get my Stevenage mixed up like that? You know what? Did we have any other ones? We must have done because the only ones
there
I
would
jumped.
Have been 2 more matches.
Right.
The 5th, 6th, and 7th match are non-J Cup matches.
Okay, so we had Zazaya versus JJ Gale.
Yes.
And that was it.
Alex Windsor versus Rio?
No, we had
No, that was Epic Encounter.
We had the J Cup, Zazaya JJ Gale, Luke Jacobs Manders tournament final. So we didn't have a third non-tournament match.
And then the previous year they stacked it.
Yeah, so previous year
they had the J Cup. They had Gabe Kidd versus Michael Oku for the title.
Yeah.
They had Alex Windsor versus Kanji for the title. And they had RKJ versus Luke Jacobs.
Your brain.
And that was like... that was such a... Here's your J Cup, cruiserweights, exciting competition, and here's 3 York Hall matches.
Yeah.
Like, it was super, super stacked.
Yeah.
I'm interested to see what the balance is this year. Do you know that we have a J Cup match? It was announced via video.
We have a J Cup match.
We do, but not in the J Cup, just one of the other matches. Lizzie Evo has called out Serena Deeb.
Oh.
Yeah. So after Lizzie wrestled Charlie Evans, she they started playing the video on the screen. It was really, really well done. They started playing the video on the screen, and like Lizzie's looked up at it. She clearly recognizes, like, because the idea is it's her and Mercedes and Sapphire talking at high stakes.
Yeah.
So she's looked up. She looks confused. If you're like, "What's this?" And then it's like, "Oh, I remember this. I know what's about to happen." And she's like, "Turn it off." She gets a microphone. She's like, "Turn it off. Turn it off." They cut Lizzie's microphone off,
Mm-hmm.
play the rest of the video, and then put it back on. And she's like, "Oh, how convenient! Now it works." And it's Serena Deeb chasing off the Cutthroat Collective and being
Oh.
like, "You might run the UK, but I run wrestling. So anytime, any place." And Lizzie's like, "You and me, July 14th."
Interesting.
Yeah, I'm well up for that.
Yeah. So I mean, look.
And you know what? I really liked the Lizzie and Charlie match because the story is so simple. Lizzie did what Sapphire couldn't.
Yeah.
So the week before, 2 weeks before, Sapphire had this crisis of conscience when Millie McKenzie had pulled up. Ref Harv's like, no, let me check on her. And she obeyed what Ref Harv said, despite Lizzie being like, fuck that, go and give her a kick in.
Yeah.
Then you've got the story, the real life story come out of it that Charlie Evans has picked up a knock. She can't go out to Barcelona. She's going to take the week off. So you know, canon, she's coming into this show with an injury. There's a moment in the match where Lizzie exploits the injury and Charlie's kind of pulled up and she's not quite the same after that. And Lizzie just goes for it, just takes her leg out. And quite quickly, the match ends to the point where it's almost like, ooh, did they have to do that a little bit on the fly because Charlie's actually hurt herself? When in actual fact, you're then also being like, or am I just being completely worked by two really good workers who have manipulated this finish? But it just worked perfectly because literally the takeaway is as simple as that. Sapphire can't do it, but Lizzie can.
Yeah, that's really interesting way of doing it. And look, when it comes to doing finishes that make work you, Lizzie, though, as I've said before, she legit made me hate her. I did not like her. And I told her that. I was like, you got me. And I remember I saying to her, when I told her, she was like, that is such a massive compliment. Thank you for that. And I was like, but that is how good she is at it, right?
Yeah.
And this was one of those matches that I wasn't expecting to see be announced. When I saw it, I was like, okay. But look, I
didn't
won't
expect Lizzie to win. I was expecting Charlie to win. But I really like the fact that Lizzie did because I feel like she needs it. Like it's good for her. It's not like she needed it. It's not like if she'd lost, it would have damaged her. But she benefits from it. Charlie doesn't lose anything, especially as Charlie was working with an injury, in story. The Cutthroat Collective need a win.
Yeah.
They probably are looking weaker this year.
Yeah.
And if we're keeping scores, Cutthroat Collective 1, Medusa Complex 1. Let's go again, please. What can we have this week? Can we have Charlie Evans versus Sapphire Reed in a one-on-one? I'd love that for Sunday. Or is it going to be Millie, but with Charlie in her corner? Are we going to get both? Are we going to get Charlie? Maybe I would be more than happy if we have Charlie and Millie versus Lizzie and Sapphire too. Because the storyline works for it. Because it's almost like Lizzie saying to Sapphire, you said you can do it, fucking go and do it.
Yeah.
We've got the same two again. This time, no mercy. Go after her. Yeah. Last time it was Sapphire begging Lizzie to start the match. This time it can be Lizzie being like, no, you're starting. Off you go. Get to it. I'm talking myself into something that hasn't even been announced, but it's just, there's so much exciting stuff there before you even think about the fact that, what about when Alex Windsor comes into it and Nina Samuels comes into it? Just with Lizzie and Sapphire and Mercedes, it's just this amazing pool of talent just in the Cutthroat Collective and the Medusa Complex before you even get to Kanji and Emerson Jane and the stuff they've got going on. And whenever you want to just pull in a Chantel Jordan or a Lucia Lee or someone like that, you're like, it's just what a thriving women's scene we've got in British wrestling.
Yeah, it's great. And look, we know that that was the end of the tour for Charlie. But we also so she's come out on Twitter saying that, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they've not planned for her to come back with something,
No,
right? And
exactly.
that's
Because
it.
although that's the end of the tour, it doesn't mean she's not going to come back just for the Rumble or
Yeah,
just for the anniversary show or something. Do you know what I mean? Like,
and
you know,
she
Manders went home and like before he'd even gone home, he'd said to both of us, wouldn't he? Been like, "Don't worry, I'll be back a couple of months."
Yeah, and I kind of with Charlie as well. I always get this feeling. I don't know what it is. Well, seeing her social media presence, I kind of think she's got a bit of the old school work either in you a little bit, where she's like, right,
Oh yeah, I
I'm
bet
off,
so too.
I'm off home for a bit, and then just will pop up and be like, okay, cool. Because we saw that she just turned up for that progress show as well, right? Like the one against Cara
She
Noir.
loves the
So
UK as well, didn't she?
yeah,
Like, it's very clearly a big, like a
so
big part of her life.
while she said that now, and I wouldn't be expecting her to be announced anything immediately. I wouldn't be surprised if something starts happening that builds to a story for her coming back, because I feel like even though we had that Medusa complex match that I don't think was supposed to happen, but well,
Well,
let's
it wasn't,
say
was it? It
unless
wasn't because
unless
she
they were
was booked for
pulling
Ichiban, right?
unless they were pulling double duty and doing what we've seen others
Yeah,
do
yeah,
and
maybe.
make their way across, but that feels like it might be a bit of a stretch. But unless that was the case, then I feel there is a reason we haven't really tapped into Medusa Complex yet,
Yeah,
which
yeah, and
feels like
also
a
like
massive draw.
I still feel like there's a slight element of what happens in Coventry stays in Coventry still, like at the moment, in terms of it's it's a new territory, to use another
Yeah,
term, and they're building up to it. So there's
yeah,
not a huge amount of crossover between Coventry fans and London fans, or
hmm
Coventry fans and Sheffield fans. I doubt there's any crossover between Southampton fans and Coventry fans, except for like people like me that go everywhere. And then it's, you know, I don't know what the figures are for RevPro on demand. I'm sure Andy has that. I'm sure he knows how many people watch each show, and I'm sure he's got a way of like analysing that data. But I can't imagine as many people tune in for Live in Coventry as they do for J Cup, Revolution Rumble, High Stakes, Epic Encounter, something with a name like that to it.
yeah,
And it's not like, you know, it's not literally like it's its own little space, because obviously they did the Trios Grand Prix there, and
yeah,
there have been significant moments in Coventry, but no one, literally nobody, is going to complain at a Medusa Complex match against the Cutthroat Collective and be like, "Oh, but we just watched that in Coventry."
yeah,
Like, it's like literally put it on every show up and down the country, and everyone who lives in those areas is going to enjoy it.
yeah. It's a draw. It really is a draw. So tournament final. The one thing I'll say to that, Dave, is I wasn't expecting Zazaya to be in the final. I was expecting it to be Ricky. I thought that the shenanigans that we would get, which ended up having the win, I thought that would be in the previous match with Ricky, and it'd be Ricky versus TK. Look, I'm
I
gonna
thought it
say
was
it.
going to be Ricky versus Shaw,
Yeah, when
and I
TK
thought
got
Ricky was going to win.
when TK got the first win in a tournament, I've said all along, I've just got this hunch because everything lined up correctly. But I think also where I was like, I'm not sure about it being Ricky was where I've said before, Leon losing feels like it could be circled back round to. Whoever wins it now doesn't feel like there's time to circle it back round to them. Okay, so that was why I was like, if Ricky wins here, then he's not going to be the guy for the anniversary.
Mm.
But there's now still that option to have to go down that road with it. So
And the thing is, there's a lot of shows between now and the anniversary,
yeah.
and there's also a lot of time.
Mm-hmm.
We're talking about another 3 months, right?
Yeah, actually, yeah, it
I
is.
can't believe that they're going to go 3 months without running another big show.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, you're right, because actually it feels like
because
it's closer than it is.
probably
But
with it be, you know, like they've said there's going to be more stuff happening in Wolverhampton. They've said there's going to be more stuff happening in Doncaster. They've said that the Revolution Rumble isn't the only York Hall running this year. Like, these are literally just answers in the Rev Pro Q&A that I've remembered. So what have we got? We've got all of June, all of July. So we're basically at the end of May now, aren't we? So all of June, all of July, first couple of weeks of August.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe they don't run another big show because that's not that's 2 months isn't too long to go between shows. If they don't do a big show between now and then, I imagine that one of the shows will just be pimped up a little bit.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Just like have a bit of stakes to it.
Yeah.
Or they'll run Wolverhampton or Doncaster or York. I don't think they'll do York Hall because I think if it were me and I'm trying to sell tickets for London for August, I wouldn't run London in July or June.
Yeah, I'm with you on that.
Do you know what I mean? Especially when I'm running London in May.
Yeah.
But Wolverhampton, like I was really impressed with the hangar.
So was
They've
I.
said they're going to go back there, so obviously they were impressed. Doncaster is so far away that from London that you could potentially have. I can't imagine a huge number of people in Doncaster are going down to London for the anniversary weekend, unless they're doing the full weekend with Forbidden Door. I don't know, but potentially, my point is we could still get Ricky versus Oku between now and the anniversary.
Yeah, we could. Yeah, we could do, and that's the beauty of the way that things have been going is that we could still get those. But TK winning,
Do you think Leon wins the Rumble?
You know what? Initially I was convinced that by now Ricky would have had the title.
Yeah, we both were, weren't we?
We both were. That was predictions that we both
Ricky
made
going into the anniversary as champion in our predictions.
I said that Ricky held the title by high stakes. That was my original, and then we had him going into high stakes, having this match with Desire as the main event. That was what I had down as after Desire winning the Rumble. I don't know if I'm honest because I think Leon at this stage will be my choice for the Rumble winner. But and look, and this is me going a little bit off script here with things as well. But one of our friends, Marty, put an idea into my head that I could see that happening. We've seen, and I know it's not modus operandi for Rev Pro to do intergender stuff, but they have done it in either multi-person or gimmick scenarios. Do we get to a Mercedes Moné match via a Kanji or a Windsor entering the Rumble and winning the Rumble? I don't think so. I would love to see it happen. I don't think so, but that's an option, which means you could tell a story to get to the men's side. That's kind of what I'm putting out there. It doesn't just have to be I've won the Rumble. Actually, it could have even more stakes in the match by having a story get you there rather than I'm the Rumble winner, therefore I'm the person going for it. But if you're asking me who I would put the belt on right now, I think it would be Leon. And look, Ricky's been around for a while, holding the fort down, but no clear direction. So there's the argument that he could be in line for a run. Desire has become a phenomenon who you could argue get his name on that lineage before it's too late, because if reports be believed, WWE are coming knocking, and it's been reported that Igor Blanc and Mike DeVecchio are due to or being lined up in WWE in September. So do you do something very quickly and then have a quick? I don't know, but Leon would probably be my one right now
because you end up thinking as much about the business side of it, as you do about the storyline side of it, and that none of it's conclusive because Leon's got the difficulties of having an unpredictable schedule with TNA.
Yeah.
And TNA takes precedent. So if he gets pulled from a show, can you book your champion knowing that at any moment they could say, sorry, we need you on that date. You can't do that show anymore.
Yeah.
It's like, well, I'm literally the poster for it.
Mm-hmm.
Meanwhile, how important is it that the champion is popular with the fans because Ricky is he's got really split audience at the moment, hasn't he? Pretty
Yeah.
much over the last year or so, it's really he's still experiencing those difficulties.
Mm-hmm.
How important is it that the champion can talk people into buying a ticket? And
Yeah.
Zazia's very, very broken English. So there's so many kind of different factors you can explore.
Yeah.
I still think the best person to be the undisputed British heavyweight champion is Michael Oku. In which case, is all of this a bit moot? Because does Oku retain at the anniversary show and not lose his title?
Mm.
In which case, who do you want him to have an absolute barn burner with? So yeah, this is what I love about Rev Pro. Again, just me marking out. I
Yeah.
find it less predictable than any other wrestling company, despite the fact
Yeah.
that I give it more of my attention than any other wrestling company. So, ergo, I should be able to predict more of it than I do.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I love that. The final itself, kind of circling back to it, I was so invested in it. I love Zazia. I think I've always cheered for Zazia in any match except his debut match. His debut match, I cheered. I didn't know him then. It was my first
Yeah.
time seeing him, so I cheered for Oku. Oku's one of my absolute favourites. Love the fella, but I was definitely cheering for Teeks. There was a lot of people cheering for Teeks.
Yeah.
And it was a really split crowd, but the cheers for Zazia got louder and louder and louder as the show went on, and the cheers for Teeks maintained their volume. I thought that it goes to show how highly I think of TK because
Yeah.
both his matches are now in my top 10 matches of the year.
Wow.
So his
Yeah.
match with Zazia and his match with Charles Samuels. And when you look at that top 10 list of the year, very few wrestlers have been included in it.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I mean? Like it's been a lot of Leon Slater, it's been a lot of Michael Oku, it's been a lot of Chris Ridgway, it's been a lot of Manders, a lot of Kanji.
Yeah.
You know, I don't think there has been a Young Guns match or a Luke Jacobs match in it this year so far, or a Connor Mills match. Oh, sorry, Connor Mills and Jay Joshua versus Young Guns. Of course.
I was gonna say that has to be.
That's literally that was number one, and now it's number two.
Yeah.
I forgot that one entirely. But do you know what I mean? Like it's the standard's really high, and so for a tag guy wrestling singles matches, to come in and put out two matches that jump into the top 10 at this stage of the year, where, you know, bearing in mind nothing from the Coventry show, even though I rated it as a really enjoyable 8 out of 10 show, none of those matches were considered for the top 10. I'm really, really, really impressed with how well I'm not impressed because I expected it, because he's so good at it, but other people should be impressed at how well he told the story of just what the championship means. And I saw someone tweet, and I think they said it was their first time going to Rev Pro, and one of their biggest takeaways was just how much the undisputed British Heavyweight Championship means. And obviously, you've got a tournament to crown the number one contender, so it obviously means a lot.
Mm-hmm.
But how much it meant to the four men in it, I feel like it genuinely is like one of the most prestigious championships in the world.
Yeah, I would agree with that. It was definitely, like you said, this was given stakes. This was given so much reverence by all of the men involved. Just like I said, when you want to show that this is the top title, you want to show someone who's got pedigree, someone like that's RKJ, right? Pedigree with that title. You've got someone who is a phenom that the whole world is looking at, Zazia. You've got someone who has history with that, and it just wants that Rocky Balboa, that one last chance. And then you've got the guy that nobody believes in, who is literally going to scrap and claw and cheat his way if he needs to get to the final.
Prepared to do anything to get the victory.
Yeah.
And it's literally that thing that I said to my daughter. Some things are worth cheating to get.
Mm-hmm.
even as like a man of morals and principles, there are things in life which are worth breaking a rule to get.
Yeah.
There aren't many, but the Undisputed British Heavyweight Championship is one.
Absolutely.
I
Absolutely.
remember when Trent Seven turned on Michael Oku. I think I've told this story before. He earlier on in the show, he wrestled Shah Samuels and he cheated to beat Shah. I think he put his feet on the ropes or he grabbed the tights. He did something of that ilk. And as he was walking up the ramp, he was like shaking people's hands and that. And he leant down and he looked at me and a couple of other people and he was like, "Boys, I'm 42 years old. Like, sometimes you just got to take a shortcut." And immediately you're just like, "Oh, all right, Trent, we forgive you." Immediately we forgive you.
Yeah.
And that's kind of like Teeks, right? It's like, I had to do it because I've been in Rev Pro for years. When have I ever had a sniff at that championship?
Yeah.
When will I ever get a sniff at it again if I don't
Yeah.
do it now?
Yeah.
What's that old adage? We don't regret the things we do. We just regret the things we don't do.
Yeah. I think it's gonna be a really interesting couple of weeks for TK Cooper. You know what?
Me too.
I've said for the longest time, I really want to see a TK Cooper heel run. And I feel that we're getting a TK Cooper singles run with enough shades of grey to make it interesting. Yeah.
And what are the chances that we see Chuck Mambo in your call?
Well, you know what? I'm gonna throw my prediction out there. I think that's the match for the anniversary show. TK Cooper, Chuck Mambo. That's where I think this is going.
Especially when you then look at the lineage of the anniversary shows.
Mm-hmm.
The first Copper Box couldn't even get on the card. And that was the story. We weren't even on the card. Second Copper Box, they put everything on the line. The third Copper Box, it's not the Copper Box, but you know.
Third big anniversary, yeah.
The third of the big anniversary shows, because obviously they've done anniversary shows prior, but not on this scale.
Yeah. 2
nights in Crystal Palace is still significantly bigger than anything they've run prior. Even 2 nights in York Hall is still, this is significantly bigger than that.
Yeah.
Chuck versus TK. It would make a lot of people happy in the sense that it would be a real fan service match. I wouldn't complain, mate.
I think it would have a lot of people who would be excited to go into it, but also who would not be able to pick who they'd want to win.
Yeah, because you would want Chuck, surely, in storyline.
Mm-hmm.
There's something about Teeks. I find it very, very difficult to not root for him.
Yeah.
Even when he is playing in those shades of grey.
Yeah. Yeah, agreed. Yeah. Well, it's going to be an interesting few.
I hope you get to watch it tonight.
I'm definitely going to be watching it. I think it's going to be at some point over the next couple of days. I think tonight is going to be a bit of AEW Double or Nothing. I'm seeing lots out there about that one. So I think that, and then
have you stayed spoiler free?
No, I don't care enough about the AEW product these days to stay spoiler free to watch it. But I'm hoping from all of the great reviews that I'm seeing people are coming up with, and lots of people that I know who all like wrestling in very different ways, all being unanimous about this show, I'm feeling positive going into it. I'm hoping this could be the kickstart back into AEW for me.
Nice.
We'll see.
You watch that. I'll watch Monday Night Raw in the morning.
Wonderful, mate. All right. Until next time, we are out.
I'm on the red brand. You're on the blue brand.
Yeah, we've got the colours nicely for it. As long as that doesn't mean I have SmackDown, because holy.
Yeah, no, you don't want SmackDown.
Oh god, no.
I watch it every week, but it ain't nowhere near as good.
Right, everyone. Catch you next time.
See you later.